Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this stream. Before we start, as always, I have a couple thoughts, and I figured this would be a good time to just kind of chill and watch the sunset over the absolutely gorgeous Tucson. So this is functionally the Witcher 3 lore run. However, I am not labeling it as a lore run, and I don't want to really treat it like it's a lore run, even though I am walking into this with the mentality of a lore run. I wanted to explain that first and foremost, because... No, don't put my face on that, Uthor. Because ultimately there's a lot of reasons why, and I've talked about these over the years, why we're not doing this as a full lore run. And the simplest and most obvious and overt example is I don't think I am really capable of doing a full lore run of this game. I don't. I don't feel confident enough in the lore of the game or the setting that it presents. And as I've said many times, and I said this right up front, that we're only doing a lore run of Witcher 3 and the 3 Witcher 3 games, as opposed to all 5 games. We will be talking about Witcher 1, we will be talking about Witcher 2, but functionally this is going to be far more of a category of chill run, which we will also discuss lore during. I wanted to categorize it even further down from a pseudo-lore run because of the nature of how we're going to be doing this. However, like I said, functionally speaking, I'm still going to be going through this with the exact same mentality. In other words, I am going to be discussing lore. I do want to discuss the nature of the gameplay, the function and structure of how they designed it, decisions with regards to visual presentation, the nature of how they designed the HUD, the graphics displays, which actually infect story, all of the usual things that I discuss when it comes to a lore run, which, despite the title, usually involves gameplay as much as lore. I know it's confusing. Moving on. Now, Infernal Table asks the overt and obvious question: what about the books? I will be flinging the books out the window for the course of this chill run. However, several people have expressed an interest in discussing the books and the variances between the books and the game, and I'm totally okay with that. As long as you're not a dick, which is really my big one rule, we can talk about whatever, right? We can talk about how this game was designed basically as an adaptation of the books rather than a deliberate structure of the books being put into game format. Or to put this another way, this is not a game that is intended to be part of the books. This is a game that is intended to be inspired by the books. And this is something that...
Dear, I've sworn my heart, my soul's sweet sovereign, my queen thou art.
The developers have been pretty overt about that ever since the beginning, when they first made Witcher 1. And, now, and yes, we are going to be avoiding talking about Uncle Vernon, because I can't talk about Uncle Vernon without violating my own rule. So, nevertheless, the way I tend to think of this, and this has always been the way I've tended to think of this, and again, this goes back to Witcher 1, is that these are functionally kind of like the Star Wars games back in the EU. They obviously fit within the confine of the original works, but they aren't literally designed to be a part of the original works in the same sense that, as if it was all one...
As famous as you.
As... I've picked a bad spot for this. As if this was all one cohesive story. Now, again, I'm not saying the books don't matter. Obviously, these were very much based on the books, and we'll be referring to the events of them many times. I just wanted to make it clear why I will not be discussing the books during the course of this run. Alright, I'm out, I give up! God, leave me alone! Jesus! I just wanted to have a view of the castle! Ugh. Jesus, get fit. No! No, I can't escape it, and I can't apparently climb up onto the thing. Come on, let's go. There. Nobody will bother me out here. Ah! No! I went too far. Hang on. Let's try that again. We got this. Okay, one more try. Here we go. I'm gonna stop. Inch. Turn. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Who was that? Someone just donated. Who was it? I gotta go look who it was. It was Kingsfold interrupting me, as he always does. Thanks you, Kingsfold. Thank you, Kingsfold, as always. Quick, well, I'm still Alt-Tab. Tell me what you want to put it towards. And thank you. Now, Mike Romano asks a good question. I didn't miss it. He asks, why right now? There are many issues from that. No, I'm not using a controller. Controllers are dumb and stupid and awful and terrible. And if you like a controller, that's totally up to you. I'm used to playing these kind of games with mouse and keyboard, so I'm going to be playing with mouse and keyboard. So, why do this game now? There's actually two big reasons. Reason number one is that this is part of what's left of my backlog, which at this point includes this run, the FF15 lore run, the Zelda lore run, the Metroid lore run, the Mario RPG lore runs, and the Young Justice and the MLP Mini Nations. All of that stuff is the backlog, which I would kind of like to be done with. Just get done with all of that. So that's problem number one. But don't worry, that's not the only reason I'm doing this right now. Because there's several other reasons. But the biggest reason I'm doing this right now is because this is the 4th of July week, for those of you here in the States. This is a pretty good time. So I've been streaming for several years at this point, and I've been YouTubing for several years at this point, and I've been paying attention because it's my job. And right about this week to the next week is usually the busiest weeks for me when it comes to streaming, because statistically speaking, the most people are available to watch my show during this period of time. And this is Witcher 3. So that's why we're doing that. That's why we're starting today. Because I anticipate this will take a bare minimum of a week, probably longer. And as a consequence, I figure this is a good time for lots of people to be able to catch this live. And we are not playing Fortnite. Oh, God damn it, Schmeidolf, I just answered that question. Short answer, no. Long answer, doubly no. It's a marketing decision. That's actually not true, Huthor. It would be a marketing decision if I was cared about the money. This is a run that's already paid for. I just want as many people to be able to watch this live as possible. I know a lot of people actually care about The Witcher 3. And, you know, the end, right? I mean, I feel that's the nut of it. Speaking of which, auto chess. I have not considered it, no, Batata, although some people have mentioned it. Yes, we're going to play PUBG. I would pay to watch that, hazardous. All right, no, I did misread your question, Schmeidolf. I have read one of the books. I don't remember which. It was many years ago. It was not very well translated into English. And I basically didn't like it at all. And I hate the author. So the books can be over there, as far as I am concerned. No judgment for anybody who likes the books. No judgment for anybody who wants to talk about the books. But my knowledge of the books is basically non-existent at this point. And I kind of want to keep it that way. Well, awesome, Infernal Taven. I'm glad to have you here. There's always Shadowbringers. Yes, actually, that's only one of many reasons, Gum Gum. But again, I don't want to talk about Uncle Vernon. I don't. I don't want to talk about Uncle Vernon, so I'm not going to. Oh, it is internal. I'm sorry. That looked a lot like an F on my screen, because the font I'm using. Internal table. So I'm not going to discuss Uncle Vernon on stream, okay? If you guys want to talk about Uncle Vernon and him on stream, that's okay. I'm not even going to be acknowledging that henceforth, and I want to be nice and upfront about that, okay? I basically can't talk about him without getting upset, and I don't feel like being upset on stream. So, moving on. And as Huthor mentions, separating an author from their fiction is a very real thing that has been true for quite a bit of real-life history. I mean, I know a lot of people, just to use a very minor example, I know a lot of people who love Star Wars and don't like George Lucas. Just kind of... Which brings me to my next topic rather neatly, actually. I love this game. I've only actually played through it once, and that was with cheats, and that's unfortunate. That's not true. I played through it 1.5 times. But I love this game. This is a astonishingly good game. And I have to admit, at least part of why I love it so much is because of how much it surprised me. Some of you probably already know this story, so please forgive me for repeating myself. But Witcher 3 was just kind of... I mean, it was pretty good. I actually enjoyed Witcher 3, but I've never really felt the desire to replay it, you know what I mean? It felt like Neverwinter Nights, but with a little more added complexity and with a pretty cool story built onto it. So I was into that. Yeah, absolutely. And then Witcher 2 came out, and I hated that. God, I did not like Witcher 2 at all. Did I say Witcher 3? God. I meant Witcher 1. I meant Witcher 1. But then I played Witcher 2, and I hated Witcher 2. I didn't like several things they did with the gameplay. I thought that they were trying a lot of new things, and a lot of those things didn't work. I thought the story was legitimately depressing and not really all that interesting on top of that. But Witcher 2 was also, in many ways, a very necessary step for the game we see in front of us right now. I bought Witcher 3 on... out of the stupidest possible reason. Like, I had no interest in playing it. It was never going to be a thing for the show. It was never going to be a thing for me personally. It was just a game where I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to buy this to support the developers, because I actually legitimately liked CD Projekt Red's approach to how they handled things with their players. They were big on feedback, and they were big on pro-consumer policies. And I liked both of those. They released an awesome letter, which I've actually read before on stream, right before Witcher 3 came out, saying, "You're awesome and thank you," basically. It was this great thing. And that's what actually made me go ahead and decide to buy the game, with no intention to ever play it. I bought it just to support them. Later that year, you guys for the Floodgates requested a Witcher 3 rumination on both this and the two expansions, which we'll also be playing for this run, by the way. And I was like, okay, sure. I mean, I'll commit to it, why not? And so I played a bit of it off camera. Like, you guys never saw that. I played right about until the time when I was going to be leaving, I can't remember the name of the town for the first time. Hang on. Give me just a second. What is the name of that town? Is this it? Whatever this place is. It's not going to tell me. This town! Novigrad. This is why I'm not doing a low run of this game. Novigrad. So I was the first. I'd gotten to here and I'd done several quests here, and it was time to move on from Novigrad. And that's how far I played. Now that was with no cheats, no nothing. I was just playing on my own. I also played a bit of it with my sister, because we were actually working on a very unique video series, which unfortunately had to be canceled as a consequence of real life getting in the way, where I was playing Geralt and she was playing basically a voice in Geralt's head. You know what? No, I'm not going to do that, Micromono, just because I hate you. But and it was this cool thing. But anyways, point being, we got up to this point, and then we basically had to stop. We had to discontinue because of real life problems. The rest of this I played on stream. You guys actually saw that. Now, yeah, it was basically a backseat gaming thing. Now, the thing is, one of my biggest regrets is that I did not record that stream. It was a very popular stream. It went out. It came across very well. It allowed me to gush. It allowed you guys to gush. It was functionally a premiere run of the game. It's just I wasn't rating it, and then I immediately recorded the ruminations right after doing those streams. And of course, I didn't record those streams. I don't hate you, Micromono. Here we go. There we go. Got to get the sunset in range here. I mentioned that the reason I'm talking about this is because one of the last reasons why this run is happening at all, one of the reasons I agreed to do this run like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that, is because I wanted to basically do that stream again. Now, I can never truly replicate that stream because it was my first time playing through, so all my reactions were quite genuine in general. And you guys were obviously, enjoying the whole thing and blah, 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 blah. But because those streams are gone and are never coming back, this is an attempt to basically make a form of this going forward. Here's hoping that this is at least halfway as successful as that stream was. I think that's actually all I have to say for preface. I hope you guys enjoy. I really do. Because this has been one of the biggest stressors in the back of my mind for the better part of a year. And I hope you guys enjoy, because that is, as ever and always, the point of these streams, for you guys to enjoy them and to be, you know, something worth discussing, something worth talking about, something worth gushing over. One of the things I've always said is that we are geeks. And as I define geeks, the word geek is just another word for the word enthusiast. We like this stuff. We care about this stuff, right? Games are awesome. So, without further ado, as the sun sets in the distance... Wait a minute, Huthor, no! Alright, time to kill Huthor. I'm ready, Huthor. Let's go. Oh, God. I am going to be doing a couple things that I didn't last time, since I know a little bit more about the game, and I am going to be trying to do more of the content of the game, more of the side quests this run through, for anybody curious about that. So. Oh yeah, and just because some people might ask, we're going to be doing Witcher 3, then Heart of Stone, then Blood of Wine, because it is my opinion that that's the best way to do it. I acknowledge that's not the only way to do it, but I feel that the narrative flows that way pretty nicely. My opinion. So. Wait, hang on, what? Okay, just making sure I have the right thing here. We'll be starting on Death March! No, I'm kidding. There's no reason to do that. That poor horse. Hang on, I hate to do this, but I gotta... Oh, it's not pausing the game. Holy crap. Thank goodness. There we go. Oh, and here's to you, Hazardous. Fun way to die. Oh yeah, by the way, PG-13 warning for this stream, obviously. For which, Hazardous? Meanwhile, in Witcher's in Geralt's mind. I mean, I wish I looked half that good, I'll be honest. Wouldn't mind the hair either. I could do without that. I know what you're thinking. What about the scars, Lore? Yeah, I don't mind the scars. I've already got scars.
You know I don't find that amusing.
It wasn't meant to amuse, but to prod you to hurry. It's midday already. You promised Ciri you'd train with her. Go before Vesemir bores her to death with those etchings.
No, Negodai. It means I don't know how long this will take. Good question, though.
So, later then.
See you later.
I actually really like his English voice actor, personally. He knows how to put a very subtle amount of nuance into his voice. Yeah, what you're looking at there, not there, but with regards to Geralt, is someone who has an extremely small amount of body fat. Welcome to the tutorial! Which I've actually already disabled. Now, I want to pause to already talk about this, because like I said, well, I'm not labeling this a lore run. My mentality walking into this is as if this is a lore run, and I want to talk about the game as much as possible. First of all, we see the problems we have when you have to have a CGI cutscene in a game, because CGI stuff is designed way in advance. Designed, and when I say designed, I mean mapped out, graphed. You've got the sketchings, then you actually have the actual renders, then you actually have to render the renders and animate them properly, and blah, 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 blah. My point being, a lot of work goes into it, and it has to happen for well in advance. When it comes to actual game design, you can change a game's model with relative ease, because all you have to do is change the model. Once the model is changed, it's still adherent to the same hooks that already existed for the previous model, assuming you did your job properly. In short, it's one of the reasons why we could mod, the dragons in Skyrim to be the tank engine, right? Once you change that, you only do one change functionally. Then the game just applies that every time it shows up. But when it comes to CGI, all that stuff has to be pre-rendered. Ergo, why Yennefer looks different earlier, as I mentioned earlier. So I just wanted to mention that because it was one of the first things I noticed about the CGI intro. Second thing I wanted to bring up here is I love how that intro showcases two things very quickly and very efficiently. First, it's a nice way of actually showing Geralt's literal tracking abilities by actually showing us, the viewer, the specific methodology he is using to track Yennefer. Nice touch. It also kind of indicates that we are tracking her, Yennefer in particular. I'll freely admit that the very first time I played this game, I didn't put two and two together that the woman in the intro and Yennefer were one and the same. My fault, whatever, moving on. But showing that he's tracking her, showing how he's tracking her, and showing what she is something that was very important, especially for people who never read the books or watched the old show. Because I don't think Yennefer's even really mentioned in Witcher 1 and 2. If she is, it's a very casual aside, or something in the background, right? No, Triss is there. Triss is a fairly common character. And Geralt is... Ciri's even mentioned. But Yennefer? I have to mention it, Colgrim. So the point being, and I think Huthor actually mentioned this. Someone mentioned this in chat while the intro was playing there. It was very important to introduce Yennefer to the players. Because while some of us have actually read the books and know who Yennefer is, for everyone else, Yennefer is functionally a new character. So apparently Yennefer is mentioned in 2. I'll have to take your word on that, because I don't remember. But either way, a lot of decent effort done to introduce the character, introduce Geralt's interest in her, showcase methodology, like I said, and then segue immediately into this gameplay section. So, all of that is good stuff, basically. Ah, hang on. Mouse is being weird. There we go. We're good, we're good.
Shit. Mountain Pass is beautiful as ever.
So that is very pretty. But I mention this because this is something else that Witcher 3 does several times, which I actually very much like. There's context-sensitive dialogue beats here and there. They're all flavor. None of them are actually substantial or significant. It's just every now and then you get someone saying something that just adds a little bit of flavor. And yeah, you hang on, I actually can't see her from this angle. I can hear her. There she go. You can see her through the fence there. Ciri's training down there. So, little narrative beats like this. And of course, nice visual showcasing. Funny fact about this. Do I want to do that now? I think I do. Hang on. What's the command? Oh shoot, I don't remember the command. Hang on. I wasn't ready to do this early. I'm terrible. I'm unprofessional. Give me a moment. Yes. Ah, it's not doing it. As much of it as I can, Nerd Factor. Why is this not working? I have forgotten cheats. Yes, that's literally what's going on here. Give me just a moment. I will find it. Oh, yes. I will find it. And with it, I will be able to control the entire... Okay, apparently I'm not going to find it. I beat the game, Finger Muffin? All 3 of them? Are my mods on in general? Well, it looks like that's here. So that's something. I'm looking for the free camera option. What's the free camera console? Does anyone know? I have something else to talk about in the interim, if anybody knows what that is. No, this is a functional lore run, even though I'm labeling it a chill run, which means spoilers everywhere. Yeah, F1 isn't doing anything for some reason, even though it should be. Because that's what it should be. I even just looked it up, so I'm not sure why it's not working. I feel like there's something else I had to do to grab it before I hit F1. I mean, it's kind of an old castle. Also, I imagine building this castle must have sucked. I'm not even sure how to check for that. I don't think that's a default option at all, and I'm right. Yes, it's a mod. It's still not working. Let's try this then. Sure. This isn't what I want at all. Alright. Do I not have that mod? This is off to a swimming start, let me tell you what. Hang on. I swore I got that mod. It's one of the only mods I got. I only got like 4 of them. It should be F1. I have... It's right there. Wait. That's very strange. Good luck, by the way. 3 effects. So I actually do have the mod in and on. I don't know why it's not working. I got it working earlier. Maybe it's just not allowed here? Whatever. It doesn't matter that much. All I was going to showcase is how all of this is basically rendered. There's a lot of tricks that games use over the years, and I've shown off several of these over the course of some of my low runs, in order to try and make something look 3D. And it's not, right? Like, it's something that's an illusion. Nope. Oh god, how do I untest pause? Oh god! Well, we're stuck. There we go. Okay, we're okay. We're okay. So anyways, getting back to my point. Yeah, there's several games. Diablo 3 uses tricks like this. Half-Life 2 uses tricks like this. I just wanted to literally show you how basically all of this area is actually rendered. Now, it's rendered in layers of quality, because of course it is. Like, if you look at those trees down there, you can kind of see how those are demonstrably rendered in a much less rate than these ones. But you'll also notice that even if you look off to the trees... Here, I'll use the mini-map. You see the mini-map? Like, at the lower left edge of the mini-map right there, you can still see those trees, which are about half a mile down there, are still animated. They're still moving. You have to scooch forward a little bit until you start to see the ones that aren't animated, which is those ones out there. Again, using the mini-map as the thing. Those ones out there are not animated. But even these ones in the middle are still animated. I just wanted to get across the idea of the scope and scale of the detail. Because, for me, one of the reasons why I love Witcher 3, not like, not enjoy, love, is because of the attention to detail in so many different respects. As someone, Siron Seraphim, as someone who spend so much of my time not being able to do those kind of details myself, but also noticing those details when it comes to works of fiction, you know, usually visual stuff, but also audio stuff as well. I love the amount of brushstrokes in this game, to use my own terminology. There's also some nice brickwork. Right.
You're running out of juice.
I know. You might bring me some more once you're done training.
Now, Huthor, I believe, pointed out how this scene is almost a one-for-one replicant of a scene from the books, except in that scene it was actually Triss instead of Yennefer, which is actually really cool, because that's a thing for people who've read the books, but, you know, this whole scene still kind of feels just a little bit off, even if you've only ever played the games. If for no other reason than, who the hell is this woman, is one of the biggest questions. It's like the concept, if I can use a parallel here, it's like the concept of a cold open. In television, the concept of a cold open is you have to present something that, by context, by context, is something that catches the viewer's attention. In other words, out of context, it doesn't mean anything. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But in context, you look at this and it's like, well, hang on. That doesn't quite make sense, does it? Like, that, why are they and who is she? So even for someone like me, who was playing this for the first time, who had no idea who Yennefer was, I'm sitting this here playing, and based on the way the game is being presented, I'm just sitting here going, the game has caught my attention, in other words.
Lilac and gooseberries, of course.
Geralt, stop fingering my toiletries.
That is not a sentence that should be said. I just feel like saying that. And of course, one of those weird details in the game is you can extinguish or light virtually every light source that's a fire in the game. To my knowledge, and I could be wrong about this, the overwhelming majority of these don't actually mean anything. Like, it's just there for, yeah, why not? Which, again, is just one of those little attention to detail kind of things. It is sometimes annoying, I'll agree. We'll probably see at least one point in the game where I'll be like, no, I want to loot the thing, not light the frickin' candles, come on!
old Witcher's fast asleep. Ciri's disappeared somewhere, of course.
So on the off chance you missed it earlier, even though it was both audible and visible, now we get our attention directed to Ciri.
Guess she prefers practice to theory.
What?
Time to wake up, Master. These lessons so boring they put you to sleep too?
Damn it. After taking notes on ghouls and owl-ghouls, wanted to rest my eyes a bit.
Making her slog through that brick? No wonder she took off.
John of Bruges lacks flair, true, but he's reliable. Not like the hogwash they print nowadays. She's tackling the pendulums, right? How many times do I have to tell her? Don't train alone. It only embeds your errors. Bring our young damsel to the lower courtyard. She wants to practice, she'll get to practice.
So, this is a good time to mention one of the other things I actually like about Witcher 3. You play a static character, Geralt. You don't play a blank slate. But, as a consequence of the dialogue choices, you get to choose kind of the leanings of Geralt during your playthrough. He can come across as exceptionally mercenary, cold and calculating, or genuinely caring, like someone who really cares about other people. Now, I'm not sure there's any other variants other than those three. Feel free to correct me. But I do like that kind of in-between approach. One of the things that not that I'm aware of, Mike Romano. Not that one of the things that people have been debating for years when it comes to the design of role-playing games like this is how much of a choice you, the player, should have in how you decide your character and how to present that in the game. Because it's an easy thing to say, the player should have total control over the personality of the character they're playing, but it's actually a much harder thing to get that across in gameplay. In other words, as much as we can decide our character choices in, for example, Oblivion or Skyrim, it doesn't really change anything, does it? Nobody really treats us any differently. Nobody reacts to us in a different way. All it does is alter a few lines of dialogue, and that's it. So even though we have full freedom to play whoever we want, it doesn't mean anything. Now, some games will go out of their way to try and make that matter, usually by avoiding the dialogue option. My favorite example of that is Dragon Age Origins, although as we've showcased, there are several Neverwinter Nights games and old Baldur's Gate games that also use the option of having many, many different dialogue choices, which can then change the flavor and slice of what kind of character you're playing. So that's all good stuff. It's just, I wanted to mention that because I think that they went with as much of a good compromise as they could have with this game. Because we can decide our flavor, but at the same time, we can't actually change who Geralt is. We're always going to be playing Geralt, in other words. And yeah, I agree, Kiera. That's So some of you probably don't remember this. When we did the last stream of this game, it was right around Andromeda. I forget if it was before or after, but it was within a month of Andromeda being released. I only point that out because we could not avoid constantly comparing this game to Andromeda. It was sort of sad. But yes, as Kiera points out, this game does what Andromeda failed to do. Preset character, variants of character based on player input. Anyways, so.
Don't get mad at her.
Why the hell not? The whippersnapper refuses to do as she's told.
You like that about her.
Fine. I suppose I'm partly to blame. But this has to end. Now. Killing monsters is not something to be taken lightly. Ciri must understand that, if she's to become one of us. I'll see you below.
And apparently I skipped a conversation with Yennefer, which, sorry, I didn't know it was there, I guess. Whatever.
Wrong. Now I see why you were so eager to practice. Strike. not in this circus. Pirouette. Wrong. Footwork. Enough. Get down.
I mean, what she's doing here is kind of
What do you
nuts.
think?
I'm pretty sure I couldn't do that even back before I had a bad leg.
All right. Take off the blindfold. You've got work to do. Your reflexes are still slow.
Maybe for a witcher.
Think drowners or striggers will go easy on you because you haven't undergone the mutations? Though in your shoes, I'd fear Vesemir more than any strigger. Disobeying his instructions? Unwise.
Well, yes, but that book was horribly dull.
I know. And you know that's no excuse.
I'm sorry. It won't happen again.
Sorry's not good enough. You're gonna read Ghouls and Alghouls in its entirety, appendices included.
No, please! I'd rather clean the stables.
End of discussion. Come on, we'll practice with the others down below.
Shall we run the walls?
No. Well, I'll do the tutorial, just in case.
Of course. This a Witcher school or an elven bathhouse?
Lead you to the bottom.
Maybe if you fall.
Just to make sure I know how to play this game. It has been a while. Oh yes, the tutorial is optional, by the way.
What did I tell you about breathing? Through your mouth, in rhythm with your steps. Siri, cut it out.
One of the other things I praise about this game is the fact that it does a lot of things right when it comes to game design. Which is funny. Oh, I suppose I should have mentioned that before we started. I'll talk about that soon. Don't forget to let me talk about the behind the scenes.
Run into trouble? Should I turn back and help you?
I win.
Your legs are longer. I'll show you yet.
That,
Just need to grow a bit.
that sounds like a hell of a technically to me, Negadai. And you know my saying on technicallys.
Oh no. Vesemir's got that look.
What did you expect?
Anything to say for yourself, young lady?
I'm very sorry, Uncle Vesemir.
Young blood craves action, I understand that. But when you fight a beast, knowledge counts as much as your silver sword. At the very least, you ought to be able to tell a ghoul from an owl-ghoul.
By markings, like unto the Panthera tigris that in Zeracania dwells, and by the sickly paleness of its visage.
So you did read the chapter. Still, you should have asked if...
But you were asleep, Uncle Vesemir.
I just want to point out something really quick. One of my favorite aspects of this franchise, or probably my actual favorite thing about this, is how knowledge is treated as an absolutely critically important skill. How there is a monumental gap that is shown at every level of society between those who know and those who don't. This informs the difference between local rulers and peasants, between the higher up echelons of the military and the local grunts, between the actual mayors, farmhands, nobility, the more learned people, and of course the most important and obvious one, the Witchers. I've said many, many times, and this is just my opinion, of course, and I don't know if the books disagree with this, but I've said many times that the reason Geralt is so damned good isn't because he's superhuman, even though he is, or because he's very trained, even though he is. It's because of this. He knows so much about so many creatures and so many entities that he can, and the alchemy and the plants, right? That he can just look at it and be like, okay, so this is this in here and this here, so this means such and such. and he can be able to deduce his way to figuring out a solution because he also knows what to do against such and such. That's just my take on it.
So you did the reading. Why not admit it right off?
Never pounce on an advantage as soon as it appears. Wait till it stands to have maximum effect. Uncle Vesemir's words.
Well, you're a quick study. Quick, but mischievous. Fine, we've talked enough. Geralt, you're with me, Lambert with Eskel, Ciri with the dummy.
Again?
Stop groaning and grab a sword. What do you think? Should we start by reviewing the fundamentals or go right to free training?
Well, again, I want to remind myself of how to play this game. So we're actually going to do the tutorial, which is, once again, optional. Good design choice. But I want to point out two things really quick, and then I want to answer some questions in chat. So, first thing really quick. Haha, Uthor. First thing really quick. I believe Extra Credits did a video about this, which goes more into depth than I am going to. But again, this came up when we were playing this last time because of the Andromeda problem. See, this game does what I usually think of as the BioWare standard. To explain what I mean by that, BioWare games, Tor is probably the single most critical example of this I can think of, Star Wars The Old Republic. Every character model has a functional list of animations, predetermined animations. Now, those animations were actually meshed and modeled after, literal motion capture. But still, once they had the 20 or so animations, everyone has the 20 or so animations, and then they try to use those animations to just kind of make sure things go. Right, like as I'm doing this, I'm literally going through some of the animations in Tor. Some of you probably recognize some of them, although I know you can't see all of me down here. Point being, it is in the director's choice of how they use those animations in order to try and make it so that they look like you're seeing something close to a real, an actual dialogue. Now the BioWare standard can work, or it can not work. As you can see, when it doesn't work, it looks like that. And nobody wants to look like that. That's just awful. Who was that? It was Nerd Factor! Well, thank you very, very much, Nerd Factor. As ever and as always, appreciate so much your support. Thank you. Now, I know you said to put it towards dinner, but nowadays most of my food is stuff I cook myself. Although I did make this really nice spiced spaghetti last night, which I'm going to have for lunch today. But anyways, if you want to put that towards something else, let me know. Either way, thank you so much for your support. BioWare standard. Now, the BioWare standard can... It's like I said, it's something that can work or can't work based on directing. Now, I bring this up because Witcher 3 actually uses the BioWare standard. If you're paying attention, and I'm sure most of you can see it, you can see the default options, the default animations that everyone goes through. I pointed it out here because the cutscene we just saw had like 5 of them, just back to back. Now, it's well directed because usage of camera angles and usage of which animations flow into which can vary it a bit. Thus, they have more options and makes it look a little bit more natural. Witcher 3 also, usually for a specific cutscene, will have manually crafted animations. So they will actually have the motion capture guy do, this one very specific animation just for a specific scene in order to try and get across a specific scene. It's a brilliant way of doing this. In my opinion, and I agree with Finger Muffin, Witcher 3 does the BioWare standard better than any other game out there, in my opinion. It is a phenomenal job they have done to... And it's a great compromise. Because the reason the BioWare standard exists is because these games are huge. I want you to imagine for a moment what it would take... Thank you again, Nerd Factor. Thank you so much. Something nice for myself? I could buy dinner for my sister next Saturday when we go to see Spider-Man. Does that sound acceptable? because the amount of time and effort and work it would take to do manually done motion capture for every scene in the game across a game that is this huge, that's insane. That is an insane amount of work. I know that this is a typical example, but let me point to Uncharted 4 as to kind of explain my point. Uncharted 4 uses pretty much 99% fully manually captured motion capture animation. So every scene and every cutscene, everything that isn't gameplay, is all something that they actually had an actor sit and go through the motions and actually capture to render. Now, it looks brilliant, but Uncharted 4 is a relatively short game. It's like a 7-hour game, something like that. So they can get away with that. And even then, that was inordinately expensive and time-consuming. For these kind of massively... And yeah, they had a director on scene for every scene. For these kind of massive games, that's just not feasible. It's just not realistic. So instead, doing what we've been talking about here, having it so that they have a director sitting down directing the animations and basically saying, I want this thing and I want this thing to happen for each given scene, will still take time, but it will take nowhere near the type of time for the previous thing. And then they can have the manually crafted animations for the scenes which really matters. It's a brilliant in-between. It's a brilliant compromise, and I think it works wonderfully. And as usual, this is a good example of using something generated in a manually directed way for better effect. Obviously, always manually directed is going to work better.
Of course you follow me. They all do.
Obviously, manually directed is always going to be better in terms of quality. But manually directing, it takes an inordinate. It takes an absolutely gargantuanly huge amount of time. So, thank you very much, Lord of Mordor. As ever and as always, much appreciated. Thank you so much. But you didn't give me a comment, so now we're going to have to stab you. I'm so sorry. Everyone stab Lord of Mordor. Exactly, Kara. It's completely infeasible. So this is a great compromise and a great in-between option. Now, several people asked me questions. I wanted to address those after I finish talking about that. So Gum Gum asked, do I think Geralt needs to be bi? No, but then again, I don't think anyone needs to be anything when it comes to their preference. Next question was... so I mentioned the visual novel thing. Negadai also mentioned the option of not calling this a RPG. I don't like to get involved in those discussions anymore because I've heard so many arguments over so many years of what exactly defines an RPG. My thought on that is very simple. An RPG is a massive umbrella term for a huge different variety of games. I mean, if we could include Oblivion, Dungeons & Dragons, and Final Fantasy VI, all in the RPG category, and none of these games are functionally like each other at all, you know. Next question. So Gum Gum asks, wouldn't that be a Gary Sue problem with regard to Geralt's knowledge? Now, I would argue no, because one of the biggest tricks when it comes to writing a character is you want them to be competent, but you don't want them to be over-competent. Now, if Geralt was a Mary Sue character, he would be someone who everyone gets along with, and he's super ridiculously powerful, and he knows everything, and he knows instantly how to do it, and he's probably smug about it, too. Like, that would be a Mary Sue. Instead, he is someone who knows a lot about everything, and that's it. That's the only advantage he has. And that advantage is the only reason he can keep up at all in a world that's actually pretty damn hostile, both in terms of people and monsters. Whew. Glancing down the list here. God, Pillars of Snow, that's hideous. Black Mesa, you got it, Lord of Mordor. Let me jot that down really quick. Yeah, and he still gets his ass kicked here and now. He still knows how to be afraid of other things. And that was how much? Black Mesa, you got it. Now, yeah, any character with everything maxed out is definitely a leaning towards the Gary Sue concept, or Mary Sue, or whatever. Now, I agree with Huthor. I did know about this. Geralt is much stronger in the games than he was in the books. That makes sense to me, for two reasons. First of all, he's the character we're playing. Like it or not, the fact that he is the PC means that he's going to be a lot stronger than, you know, most other typical level characters. That's just kind of how that works. That's not necessarily true, but you could see why it's kind of understandable why he would end up being buffed up overall, because we're the ones playing him. But the other thing, and this is just my opinion on the matter, is I think the other reason Geralt has been buffed up for the sake of the games is because they wanted to showcase a higher tier of the setting. This is just my opinion. I don't actually know if this is true. So the Witcher setting, someone asked earlier what tier of setting The Witcher is. Witcher is actually fairly low tier, with a couple of exceptions. Because the games, especially, showcase... Well, I mean, vampires is the obvious choice, but it showcases quite a few creatures, entities, and of course powers, politically and personally as well, that are substantially stronger than what most of the other setting would functionally show. I keep using the word functional today. I apologize. I don't mean to keep leaning on that word. The signs, that's a great example, because I did know about that one. So the signs in the books are way more lower tier. The signs in the games are basically a form of magic. They're a whole separate tree that we go into and put points into and blah, blah, blah. The curses, that's another excellent example, Vigilant, thank you. The curses are very... Let me rewind for a second here. I really like what they've done with the curses in Witcher 3 specifically, because the curses are treated as pretty high tier, but there's always a way to break it. Like every curse, once you understand why it is and how it is, can be then broken, can be dispelled or whatever. And I like that, because that makes perfect sense to me. Functionally, God, I keep using that word. Curses are presented as a form of rules magic within Witcher. If then. And I think that works, especially if you're going to have it be kind of its own separate category over here. And again, it also emphasizes that main point I already made, knowledge. That a curse is the kind of thing that would be, oh my god, unless you know how to break it. I also, however, and this is important, I also like the fact that breaking a curse is not always easy. In fact, it usually isn't easy. So even if you know how to make it, how to break a curse, or how to function, how to remove a curse, you can tell I'm nervous. It doesn't mean you can just do it, right? I'm reminded of the curse in, I want to say it was in Toussaint, where the solution was for them to basically die, you know? Oh, that's true, Huthor. A curse also doesn't necessarily blend or propagate from someone who is a mage who can use magic. A curse can simply happen as a consequence of the setting. This is also why I refer to it as rules magic. Because near as I can tell, curses in this setting, this is based on the games, are something that are a completely separate category of magic from everything else. From the magic that the sorceresses use, from the magic that the mages use, and the wizards, or whatever the hell they all actually call themselves, from the magic we use, then there's curses over there. And I do like that segregation. So, yeah, I like that. I like that. Anyways, so moving on, let's go ahead and continue forward with the friggin' game. Now, we're still in the tutorial, so let's do the combat tutorial to remind myself how to play this game.
Should work on the basics. Even skilled masters need to hone the fundamentals, and Ciri's barely a novice.
Yeah, tyranny is another good example of that. Hi, Baron.
Draw your sword, Geralt.
Witchers must be prepared to fight foe. Yeah, so they got two swords. They got swords, they got signs, they got alchemy. No strife. No. One. So Z is targeting.
Quick cuts. 1, 2, 3. Strong strikes now. Give it all you got. Never lock your elbow when striking, young lady.
Position, Ciri. Footwork. Remember.
Yeah, literally Z targeting. Ha ha ha. Oh yeah, this. I remember this. This is one of the biggest problems I had with the gameplay, is because it insists on Alt for dodging. Oh god, I don't have roll bound. Hang on, hang on. I don't have roll bound. Let me think about this for a second. Let me think about this. I'm not sure what to put that on. Yeah, but I don't remember what. Is B doing anything? Anyways, one of the biggest problems I had when I was playing this game without cheats, B is best. I could unbind that. Was the fact that I was trying to use roll as my dodge, and I shouldn't have. Like, it wasn't working all that well because roll. And go ahead and correct me, but roll is for monsters, whereas dodge is for people. I think it might be reversed of that. But I didn't know that when I was playing legit, so I just had tons of trouble constantly getting hit by things. Because I was using roll for everything. Sure, let's do this. It's not going to let me. Apparently I'm being told I'm wrong. Well, either way, I used nothing but roll, and it sucked. Like, it was awful. I was getting hit constantly, and it was driving me nuts. There we go. We can just get rid of that. I'm actually kind of curious why they lock those at all, so we'll just do this. Do I have that bound to anything? Hey, let me check something real quick here. Looks like no. Well, that might have been it, Tesvir, because I played Witcher 2 not like a year before I played Witcher 3. I hate alt for that. Okay, so anyways. Whoa, there we go. Hey!
Now, Harry. Ciri, see how Geralt holds his sword, its angle?
Anyways, I do like how they're still talking to Ciri through this whole thing.
Pretend now, live later. Damn, riposte! Strike! Counter-strike!
Ah, yes, behind-the-scenes stuff. I know when I want to talk about that, and it's going to be after the tutorial here.
Who's next? Now, young lady, to bring the day to a close, we'll go over a few Witcher signs. Let's start with when.
This game, Baron. Not even really kidding about that. Okay.
Ciri. Quen is sometimes called the Witch Ciri. Quen is some Ciri. Ciri. Quen is sometimes called the Witcher's Shield. Now watch carefully to see why.
Sure, Corellis.
I'm too old for this shit. Cast Igni, Geralt. I want to see sparks fly. See? If not for the Quen sign, I'd be aflame by now. All right, Geralt. Come on. See that, Ciri? Art will knock anyone or anything off balance. Time for Axie. Damn it. I hate this feeling. Ugh. Axie can really muddle your mind. Erden now. Show her, Geralt.
No, Gum. I'm way too broken.
See this, Ciri? Couldn't move if I wanted to. Throw a bomb. Don't worry, Ciri. Quen will dampen the blow. Fine. Enough. Continue training at will.
This is the part where the game kind of wigged me out a bit, by the way. I'll go ahead and admit that.
Get down here.
A little she-devil. As soon as she's back, we'll set her to polishing all the swords at Kaer Morhen.
Well, mostly because I didn't see this coming. See, I knew something was off, but I figured this was just a memory, not a dream sequence. And I had no idea what the Wild Hunt was, really.
I'll make sure to find every last blade for you. What the?
Notice the snow.
Vesemir.
I've long awaited this, and you, White Wolf.
No.
Don't worry, I'll talk about the Wild Hunt later. Including how wrong I am about them.
You all right?
Had a nightmare.
About?
Take forever to explain.
Dawn's some way off. We've got time.
Yeah, sure.
Started in the guest room at Kaer Morhen. I was relaxing in the tub, and next to me,
Triss?
Yennefer. Funny, isn't it? She's never been there. Seemed so real in my dream, though.
Was she nagging you about something? True to life, indeed. We'll find her.
I know we will. That's not what worries me. You've seen her tracks. She's at full gallop all the time. Breakneck speed through wild lands, devastated battlefields. She's in a hurry to get somewhere. Or fleeing something. Either way, it means trouble of some sort.
Be surprised if she wasn't in trouble. She's always poked her nose in beehives. Courtly intrigues here, mages' conspiracies there. What do you expect?
Don't know. Guess I thought once we were finally reunited, things would be calm. At least for a while.
Calm? With Yennefer? Good luck.
So I'm going to admit something. I don't remember. Was Vesemir in 1 and 2? I actually don't remember. He was in 1. Okay. That makes sense. He was probably in the section at Kaer Morhen then. So, I'll go ahead and admit that I didn't remember him from 1 at all, as is obvious from the statement I just made. Now, I know what you're thinking. Laura, why are you bringing it up? One of the things I like most about Witcher 3 is that you can play it without ever having read the books, watched the show, or played the previous games, and it works. It works surprisingly well, in my opinion. The game does a lot to, in fairly good exposition, weave characters and concepts into the narrative, so you can pick up on things pretty quickly, right? Now, this is also important because, well, most games can't do this. I'm one of those people who very adamantly disagreed that Mass Effect 3 should have been made for newcomers. It was, in my opinion, one of the larger single problems with Mass Effect 3, is that they tried to make it so that people could play Mass Effect 3 without ever playing Mass Effect 1 or 2. Now, in my defense, the reason I thought that was because Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 were designed, originally, to be one story. So, that's basically like saying that Chapter 15 of a... that's a bad example. Chapter 30 of a 45-chapter book should suddenly be like, okay, now you have to make this last bit of the book as if for people just reading the last bit of the book. The Witcher series kind of bypasses this for two reasons. Reason number one is Witcher 1, 2, and 3 are not one cohesive story. They are three stories that happen to follow the same character sequentially. In other words, they're not true sequels, and we talked about this when it came to Zelda, right? They're not true literal sequels. Instead, it's more like, here's a story, and then here's a story that happens after it, which is affected by the previous story, but is still not an actual direct sequel. And then here's another story, which is also after this, but not a direct sequel. Right? So this works. This works. And yeah, there are consequences that carry through. They do acknowledge the things that happened in the previous games, and the books for that matter. But they don't necessarily connect to each other, even though there are threads of connection between them. I mean, one obviously ends with you entering the service, but that service basically ends almost the moment you start 2, that kind of a thing. Anyways, so I just wanted to comment on that because I think that was a brilliant choice on their part. Now, I know what you're thinking. Lore, you've been paused at this point for a while. What are you doing? Well, I'm showing off their animation and direction department. You'll notice the sun hasn't risen at all while I've been paused here. That's because they've designed this and directed this so that the time, which is attached to the day and night cycle, is actually frozen during this cutscene. It is as we move through the dialogue that actually manually moves the sun further up. I just wanted to point that out because it's a nice touch, and it's interesting how they decided to do that. Doing that gives the director more control over how the scene progresses visually. If they hadn't done that, someone, for example, frozen right here for a long time, could have had this kind of thing, instead of... Or you could have gone through the scenes too quickly and the sun might not have never risen. This gives them more control over it, that's all. Thank you very much, Battle Programmer. Welcome to the Year Club. You're awesome. What would you like to put that towards? The last thing I wanted to point out here... my lore runs, even though this isn't a lore run, I like to talk a whole lot about a whole lot of stuff right off the bat. One of the things I love most is and this is not the first game to do this, it's just a feature I like, is advancing dialogue and side dialogue are colored differently. Now, I meant to show it off earlier and I screwed up, but the number 2 option, which is we will, not worried about that, was more of a tan light color rather than the starker yellow and black of the top dialogue. The starker yellow and black will advance a dialogue, whereas everything else would just get you side stuff. I like that being quickly and easily visually indicated. It's good HUD design. I just wanted to comment on that really quick. Battle Programmer, DKC3. You got it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, because again, not a full lore run. I think only a few times in this game are there more than one yellow option, and those are the truly rare choices that you'll have every now and again in some of the quests. And so that's also kind of an indicative. When you have more than one yellow choice, you know that they are mutually exclusive. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I remember that being a thing a couple of times. Okay, I think that's everything.
In the dream, I went and found Ciri. Then we trained.
Those were the days. Little she-devil. I've trained kids who were faster, stronger, but none had her character. Didn't end well, did it? Your dream?
No. The Wild Hunt appeared, attacked Ciri. I couldn't move, stood there like a stump.
It was just a dream.
That's the problem. It was more. In the past, when Ciri'd appear in my dreams, something was wrong. She was in danger.
We taught her how to defend herself from anything, wraiths included.
Be dawning soon. Time to go.
Wait. Show me the letter from Yennefer. Might have overlooked some hint in there.
Didn't overlook anything. We were meant to meet in Willoughby. That's what she wrote. Meanwhile, one army or another burned the village to the ground. All we can do is follow her trail, so...
Stop talking for a minute and give me the letter. How about that? It does smell of lilac and gooseberries.
You were gonna read it, not sniff it.
We must meet soon. Willoughby near Vizima. Nothing else to guide us there. What's this postscript? I still have the unicorn?
No comment.
Stuffed unicorn. Used it once or twice. In certain situations.
The things young folk get up to these days.
Back on topic. How's it look? How far behind Yennefer are we?
2 or 3 days. Trail's fresh. But it looks like it leads towards the main road. Could be muddled there. Wait, hear that?
I hear it. I smell it. Ghouls.
No, monsters. Oh yeah, I need to do that. Oh, wrong one. Igni. Igni. There we go. Don't worry, I won't burn everything to death. Just things that piss me off.
Who's next?
I have my silver sword out. Here, see? Here's my regular sword, here's my silver sword.
Of course, when armies pass, necrophages follow. Let's go before any more show up.
So, looting. Looting is pretty quick and easy. I know this is a weird thing to comment on, but you'd be surprised how many games get looting wrong. You just have to be in range of the item you're looting. There's a little indicator. It looks like I'm done here. It's a little visual indicator to show you can loot something. There you go. You can see it right there. Just kind of little white sparkles in the air. You just tap it, and then you tap that.
In black crystal. Why do I think this is Yen's? Ever tell you about this sorcerer I knew? Couldn't stop talking about how useful they are as creatures.
Because you can brew potions from their blood?
No, because by eating rotting corpses, they prevent epidemics.
Did he know they eat the living as well?
No, really upset him too. His theory collapsed.
Sorry, I was actually going to talk about the looting more, but then they started talking. Point being, they do a lot of things right with the looting mechanics.
Exactly going our way.
We have a side.
The Northern Realms.
Radovid's realms, don't you mean? Temeria and Edirn are no more.
Radovid's pledged to restore the old borders as soon as he wins the war.
Believe that?
Gotta believe something. It's what keeps us going.
So hold on. I got a lot to unpack there. But yes, the looting, the stuff you can loot is also visible on the mini-map, which includes the herbs and other little things, and a little X for like corpse loot you can loot. You can loot manually, or you can just hit space to loot all. And the inventory has a sort option too. I just wanted to mention that because there's a lot of good things with the loot design. It's very quick, very smooth. It's awesome. Now, what they just did was not the best exposition I've ever seen, but it is still what I would call good exposition. It feels like a fairly natural conversation that comes as a consequence of what they're literally seeing. You'll notice that they don't even start talking about politics until they see the corpses hanging, the hanged men, right? That is what prompts Vesemir to say, hey, war's not going our way. That then, of course, prompts, Geralt's obvious response. We have a side? And he's like, yeah, the Northern Realms, as if it's obvious. This is a good time to mention that the voice acting in this game is phenomenal. Platy, take note. They know how to put a lot of specific nuance into the things they're saying. So, to get across what I was mentioning, well, the way he says it was, yeah, the Northern Realms. Now, the way I say that is kind of as if it's a conclusive statement, which means the person who is saying that statement is saying it as if it's a duh, as if there's no other possible option there. Of course their side is the Northern Realms. Why wouldn't it be? Now, he doesn't have to say that. A bad exposition would say, the Northern Realms, what other possible option could there be for witchers such as us? He doesn't say that. Instead, he just says, the Northern Realms. I'm kind of losing it, but he says it in such a manner that the rest of the necessary nuance is put into the words. And yeah, of course, we have hints in the off chance you don't know about the neutrality stance of witchers, of Geralt's comment of we have a side, because normally witchers don't. We also see... Yeah, exactly, Finger Muffin. We also see a little bit of an insight into the really unique politics of this situation. Now, this is another situation in which the books and the games have to be divested from each other. Because the game, Witcher 3 in particular, doesn't really portray the Nilfgaardians that badly. Oh, they're not portrayed as good, and we'll showcase how they're not portrayed as good. But they are not portrayed as horrible. Now, from what I understand, the books, it's a little more dark and murkier over there. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, as always. But I mention that because within the confines of this game, Nilfgaard is treated as another nation. Not the bad guys and not the good guys. They're just the guys who happen to be over there fighting the guys who happen to be over there. I kind of like that, actually. I kind of like that portrayal, excuse me. That's just my take on it. Whoops. And Lord knows that even when it comes to, I like gray versus gray. I do. But I will always argue there needs to be some black and there needs to be some white when it comes to a gray versus gray situation. I think Witcher 3 does have a decent amount of both black and white in it. And that helps to show the massive amount of gray in between. But I'm getting off topic. I bring this up because the Nilfgaardians versus the Northern Realms thing is a topic that I find absolutely fascinating and we'll probably discuss multiple times during this chill run. Because it's an immensely complex situation that has no good answer for basically anyone. That being said, one of the things that the earlier games did a lot was they portrayed the Nilfgaardians... I shouldn't say that. They talked about the Nilfgaardians as if they were universally the bad guys. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, and it's almost always in character. Characters are talking about the Nilfgaardians as if they're the Burning Legion. And it makes sense why people who are really big on freedom and blah, blah, blah would talk about them as if they're some horrible, horrible thing. Yeah, they literally call them the Black Ones, for God's sakes. But, from what I've seen, the Nilfgaardians are just as bad as the Northern Realms. That's just my take on it. That's the quick summary. Again, we'll talk more about this as we go, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. But they're just as bad as the Northern Realms. Not better, not worse. Just another nation. Now, another thing I wanted to mention, super quick, is that Radovid can go to hell. No, seriously, Radovid can go to hell. I do not like Radovid at all. He's not quite a get-off-my-screen character. There are, in fact, precious few get-off-my-screen characters in these games. But Radovid comes really close. Ugh. He's got a good voice actor. He's well acted. He's well written. I just want to stab him forever. Anyways. But I mention that because we also got a little bit of additional exposition right there if you were paying attention. In other words, we got a little bit of exposition that Radovid is currently the Northern King. And that the other, he's pledged to restore the old borders once he's won the war. Uh-huh. Yeah. Within that, with that quick and easy discussion, just bam, 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 we get the information that Radovid has basically taken over the other two realms. We'll get more exposition on the specifics later, but with that quick line of dialogue, we learn that he has functionally taken over the other two major realms in the area, is acting as the king of the North, the unified North, and oh no, he's totally on our side. I will propaganda my way to victory. So, yeah. But Radovid can go to hell. Oh yeah, I should mention this. Is there a way to... Nope. Damn it, there's no way to pause it. Hey, look! So now we're paused, so I can show off something. I just wanted to show off the mini-map really quick, which also has pretty decent design overall. So first of all, we see a lot of information very quickly and effectively showcased in a very small area. We see the time, we see the type of day in general, if you don't want to see the actual numbers on it. We see the exact type of weather we've got going on. We see how far it is, the literal distance between us and our target, which itself will move based on contextual stuff. So some of the... Damn it, Krellis. Some of the... I've talked about this. Older games have a problem where they would put your quest objective marker like over there, where you actually need to go. Not over... I'm saying that wrong. They would put your marker at this point, which is the inevitable quest objective, but that's actually... You have to go in here from a cave, which is up here, and in order to get to the cave, you have to go up through here. So the actual quest objective should be up here. Can you even see me? Up here, then here, then here. But older games would just put the marker right here at the final point. Witcher 3 is one of the games, and a lot of more recent games have started doing this, where it'll have a dynamic objective. It'll basically mark a path for where you need to go. Look, I just pedal glass. How's this? So it shows the marker, it shows the distance to the marker, it shows gatherable stuff, it shows lootable stuff, it shows enemies, and, this is also important, it shows relative z-axis. This is something that a lot of people don't actually know how to do when it comes to game design. Z-axis is very important contextual information, and you can see it right there. Those two red dots, those two enemies over there are down. There's a little thing right there that just points down right below them. And there's another one that'll point up if they happen to be above us. Very simple, very clean, just quickly gets across the information that they are up or down. That's all that's needed. That is extremely valuable mini-map design that a surprising number of games completely miss. Some games will do it so that it's like washed out, kind of transparent if it's not on the same relative z-axis, but that's still not really good, because all that does is showcase that they're not on the same level as you, not if they're up or down. And some games will not have it at all, so you're just left trying to figure out where the hell the enemy is or why they're not here. Now, so I wanted to mention the minimap really quickly, but of course there is the most important thing I wanted to mention with regards to the minimap, and that is naturally the fact that it is completely optional. Now, I have talked many times in the past about this aspect of quest design. If you played Skyrim... I know I've given this speech before, so please forgive me. If you played Skyrim and you turned off the quest objective and the HUD and all that, you'd be lost, because nothing in the game indicates where you want to go. It doesn't tell you where to go. It just says, go to the such-and-such dungeon and gather this item. And that's all the dialogue you get. That's all the text you have. That's all that's in your dungeon journal. You got nothing. Now that's bad design, basically. That's forcing you to have the HUD and have the quest marker to know where the hell you're going. A well-designed game is, well, closer to Morrowind. Now, Morrowind doesn't really have a HUD thing. I was trying to be generous, Plutonia. Sometimes they'll tell you where to go. Because they will. Sometimes they'll tell you where to go. But in Morrowind, they will tell you, okay, so I want you to go... follow the road... What direction are we facing? Follow the road west out of town. While you're following the road... Well, that's really raining. Follow the road west out of town. Once you come to the bridge, crossing the river, cross the bridge. You'll have to keep going until you come to a small little outcropping of houses. Once you're there, look for such and such. Such and such will tell you where to go and blah, blah, blah. Right? That's what Morrowind will do. Now... Witcher 3 will do that sometimes well and sometimes poorly. It's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, even Morrowind actually screws that up from time to time, and in some cases gives you literally incorrect information. But as ever, I champion the idea that quest HUD stuff, like quest markers and quest indicators, should be a thing, but the game should be designed as if they're not there. And thus, it is up to the player's choice as to whether or not they have all this off, because you can turn all of this off. I can just show you what I'm talking about. Like, Upon a Time, I could just turn Upon a Time off right there. Just bam, he's gone. He doesn't exist anymore. Don't worry, he can exist again. Bam, he's back, just like that. It's very fantastic. I don't remember where the option is, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's under video. HUD configuration, there it is. So check this out. So first of all, you could just turn the HUD off. Just bamf. And this is now the game we're looking at. Just completely erase it. Or, once again, we have... I just wanted to praise the good game design of this game, because it is so good. Whoops. We could turn it on, but say, you know what, I don't want the action log. Or I don't want the mini-map. Or, I don't want the undiscovered POIs to be on the mini-map. Or, I don't want the additional equipment to be on this. I don't really care about my boat durability. I don't want to know how fearful my horse is, etc., etc. There is a lot of options here, and those options are awesome. If we were reviewing this, the HUD options alone would probably get a plus because of the massive amount of options you have here to specifically decide exactly how you want to tailor your playing experience, and that is awesome. Oh yes, it is probably worth noting that several of these options were not in at release. I know several of these were put in like very recently to when I started playing the game. So, that's a thing. Why aren't we reviewing this? I guess because no one asked me to is the real answer to that, Micromono. Because that really is a separate category of thing, and I don't want to do a lore run and a review at the same time. That's, I don't know, that's stretching my mind a little bit, because that's two different mentalities simultaneously. No, not yet, Schmeitel. I mean, a chill run. Sorry, a chill run. Chill run is what I meant. But yeah, just off the top of my head, if I was to go ahead and give pluses or minuses for this, plus for options, plus for good interface design and good HUD design, plus for the approach to the tutorial in general, which is both the previous tutorial and the tutorial we're technically still in. This whole section is very well designed. All of these are pluses to gameplay. I would also say, basically, the way you can tailor your combat experience, to summarize, would be an additional plus. We're up to 4 pluses now. Now, what I mean by that is between the difficulty options and the amount of tools that are at your disposal, all of those allow you to kind of customize how you play through this game. You can crank the difficulty down, just get the best weapons, and just kind of mash your way through almost the entire game. You can do that. You can turn the difficulty up and not be capable of doing that and have to figure out your way through things. For example, one of the things would be... hang on. Tutorial. Okay, so, as I was trying to say. Is this it? No. There it is. Perfect. This is one of the better options if you want to do... I'm sorry, Micromono. I know what you feel, because I've got a headache developing too. I need to have lunch soon. One of the options is the bestiary. This is actually one of the things I praise more about this game, because it will tell you a decent amount about what you need to know in order to fight these things, including the most obvious thing, the specific thing they're vulnerable against. Can it? Anyways, and of course, then it gives a little bit of information on the creature itself, which, if I'm not mistaken, you can get more information as you go throughout the game. But the point being, right off the bat, you have a little bit of an idea of exactly what you're fighting and how you're fighting it. Now, this is another interesting point. Most of the fights in this game, in my experience, and again, I only got up to Novigrad before I stopped playing without cheats, so limited experience, but in my experience, most of the fights in this game, you don't really have to try that hard for, even on a normal difficulty. However, there are specifically manually crafted fights, which are usually against a unique monster, that are usually the part of side quests. Those ones you do gotta prep for. And I like that. I like having most of that kind of, prep for it difficulty kind of put off to the side as an optional thing, as opposed to be blunt, the Witcher 2 approach, where virtually every fight you had to be prepped for. And of course, when I say prepping for it, Witcher 2 kind of started the prepping idea, where you had to make traps and set traps and make the potions and drink the potions, blah, 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 blah. Right? But here, I feel like they have streamlined without ruining the nature of how much prep work you can put into a fight. With regards to the alchemy, which I kind of briefly showed off earlier, which is over here. Well, there's crafting, first of all, but no, I actually meant this thing. The mutagen, alcohol bombs, oils, potions, etc., etc. Yeah, the Witcher 2 was... There was a prep phase in Witcher 1, but it was basically mandatory in Witcher 2, which is one of the things that pissed me off most about Witcher 2. Like, I like optional difficulty. I do not like having to always be on. I don't. I've never enjoyed that aspect of game design. Real quick, by the way, thank you Upon a Time for the sub. I don't know if I said thank you earlier. If you know what you want to put that towards, let me know. I didn't see you putting anything there. I don't think. Let me scroll up, make sure I didn't see anything. Nope, I didn't see anything. So if you know what you want to put it towards, let me know. There's quick slots, a bunch of other regular, normal stuff you can do here. I don't have much to say about this. This is actually fairly typical inventory management and stuff, but there's some decent enough stuff here. The world map, unfortunately, is not actually all that well designed. I wouldn't give a plus for the world map. It's simply lacking in several key areas. You'll notice that everything is color highlighted right now. Well, that's me. A mod does that. Also, one of the more aggravating aspects of the vanilla map is after you do a event or quest or whatever, it doesn't go away. It just stays on your world map forever. Now there's a mod that fixes that, but yeah. Anyways, so what are we up to? 4 pluses here? Hang on, I should probably jot these down. Give me a second. Well, thank you, Kingsburg. I'm glad you're liking it. A chill run is actually exactly what it sounds like. Speed run, lore run, premiere run. This is a chill run. We're just kind of chilling. We're just kind of hanging out, talking, discussing the gameplay, discussing the lore, discussing the making of, and just enjoying the game as we go through it. I do want to write down these pluses on the off chance I decide to turn this into a review. So we've got plus for any options that allow for deciding how combat works for you. We've got a plus for general excellence in options and let's just cut that off. In options. Plus, why am I writing plus? Plus, this is apparently an everything run. Just jotting this down here. I might actually add it to the document later. A plus for the HUD. HUD and excellent visual presentation of information, which is also toggleable and optional. What was the 4th plus? This is why I'm writing these down, because I've already forgotten them. There was the combat plus, there was the options plus, there was the HUD plus. I don't remember the 4th plus. Nah, dialogue wasn't a plus yet. Oh, right, the tutorial. The tutorial was it. Plus for excellent design in both tutorial areas. That was it. Story-wise, plus for voice acting and... plus for voice acting. Then we're going to have a plus for just generally excellent exposition woven into narrative. I'm not sure, Fenrir. Then... ah, yes, the dialogue animation was... that's absolutely plus-worthy. What do you think? Do you think the animations are story, gameplay? No, they're story, aren't they? I think they're story. We'll put it under story. So plus for excellent use of BioWare standard animations. Now, the dialogue system, I'm going to go and give that a story plus, too. Or do you think that's a gameplay plus? Yes and no, Mr. Floyd Pinkerton. I'm not going for the evil ending. Don't ask me to. But I'm going to showcase some stuff, hopefully, that I didn't last time. See, the dialogue thing, I was leaning towards gameplay, honestly. It's not both. It's not a double plus. I don't think it is anyways. But the reason I was thinking it was more gameplay is because, again, it's still Geralt, right? No matter what you're doing, you're still playing as Geralt. but you get to decide which flavor of Geralt you're playing, and it kind of helps you to, I don't know. I'm going to just put it under gameplay. Screw it. Plus for approach to dialogue options, allowing for deciding the flavor of Geralt you play as. We're up to 5 gameplay pluses and 3 story pluses, and we're in the tutorial. Yeah. Well, see, that's a fascinating question, Micromono. However, it does affect gameplay. It doesn't affect combat. It doesn't affect, something where I will have this event happen otherwise. But choosing dialogue options is gameplay. That is a gameplay mechanic. In the same manner, it's easy to. The easiest way I've ever found to explain this is if you're reading a book that isn't a choose-your-own-adventure book, then just reading through this book, there's no gameplay, really. The only gameplay is turning the page and reading the words, right? That's it. There is functionally no interaction. This is what I love so much about video games in general, is they are an interactive media. And I love that. So being able to simply choose something like deciding what lines of dialogue you say in a cutscene is a gameplay thing. That is still an interactive part of the medium. It's one of the reasons why I defend games that are, visual novels or walking simulators, as long as they're well done, because in my opinion, those still function as games, because there is still gameplay, there's still interaction there. You still decide stuff, like the Telltale stuff, right? Does that make any sense? You can clearly tell that it's not a lot of gameplay, but there is still some gameplay there. So that's why I put that under gameplay for the dialogue choices. Minuses. Negatives. Yeah, I do definitely think there's some negatives to this game. Let's hold off. Since we're doing this, since we're just going ahead and doing this, let's go ahead. Actually, hang on a second. Let me go ahead and pull the HUD up. My HUD. Real quick here. Since we've just committed at this point. Whatever. We'll just go ahead and put this on screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you can't see it. Hang on. I gotta set this up because I'm not ready for it. I wasn't ready for it, but we're just committing. We're just committing. Story negatives. Everything about Ciri. I'm kidding. Don't stone me with sticks, please. What are we up to? 3 here? Yep, 3. I was right. Scared is a better word. Colgrim. Dreading. Okay. Where's the gameplay positives? There they are. Okay. So this is where we're at right now. Let's go ahead and put this down here so I can see the indicator. Need to move this up a bit. There we go. Okay. 3 pluses for Yennefer. Oh, jeez. Okay, let's continue playing the game for a bit, shall we? Oh yeah, I gotta unpause reality. Oh yeah, so I do actually have one other thing to say. So, the horse, Roach. Now, I don't actually like the way the fast travel system of this game works. I don't. Because it's actually not fast travel. What it is waypoint system. The way the game works... I might as well just rename this game at this point. The way the game works is it's a waypoint system. So each of these little... whatever these are called. There's a term for these damn things. I don't know what they're called. Fast travel things. You can go to a fast travel thing, and you can warp to another fast travel thing. Some of them are given to you as a consequence of just getting to a certain point in the story. Most of them you have to go and actually find yourself. That's a waypoint system. It's not great. I don't think it's a negative, but it's not good. I don't think that's a positive. However, the Roach system is actually pretty good in my opinion. So the way Roach works, and we've already been given a little bit of tutorialization on how that works. Obviously, you can summon Roach anywhere. First and most obvious pick, and that's a great gameplay design decision. And I mean that sincerely. It's too easy for a game like this to have you have a character or have a vehicle or have something that enables you to get from point A to point B. And it's over there because you left it over there. Some games give you a way of summoning it to you, which is irritating. I'll use Just Cause 2 as my perfect example of that. In Just Cause 2, you can summon a vehicle to yourself. It costs money, and it costs time, because you have to pull up the thing, you have to drop the beacon, you have to wait, you have to go through a loading screen, you have to select, you have to go through another loading screen, then it finally drops there, and then you could use the vehicle. That's not good. I mean, I love Just Cause 2, but that is not a good method of summoning a thing to you, right? Being able to summon a thing to you is good design for many reasons. Because even though it's basically a hand wave, it is there purely for gameplay convenience of not having to constantly keep track of that. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think you still can keep track of that if you choose to. You know, you could just leave leave Roach over there, and if you go back to that spot, I think Roach will still be there. So I don't quote me on that. I'm not actually sure about that. But I do think the gameplay option of being able to warp it to you is a tremendous gameplay convenience feature that should exist as an option in a game like this. And I want to explain partially why I feel that way. Any game that has any kind of transit built into the gameplay needs to think very carefully about how exactly you get from point A to point B. Because, and I know that sounds like a strange thing to comment on. I wish Javan was actually here for this, because I'd love to hear his thoughts on the game design aspect here. Because too many games think that getting from point A to point B isn't actually a part of the game. But it is. It is an incredibly important part of the game. Especially for larger open world games, where that is a huge chunk of the literal stat time you'll be playing the game. In other words, if you were to look at a timeline of how much time you're spent playing, I don't know, Just Cause 3, a fairly decent chunk of that, probably at least 10 to 20% of the total time you spent getting to that game, is just traveling and nothing else. You need to make sure that that travel time is then enjoyable, interesting, fun, quick, or skippable. At least one of these options. This is one of the reasons why I'm so in favor of fast travel as a mechanic, as an optional mechanic. Because it means once you get tired of walking from point A to point B, you can just travel there, right? This is why I like the fact that you can just summon Roach straight to you. Yeah, in Red Dead Redemption 2, it was basically a cutscene. That's a great example. Red Dead Redemption 2 did not know how to make traveling from point A to point B very interesting. It did one thing to try and mitigate it, which wasn't a bad idea. It's the random events, the strangers thing, but that's about it. So you need to make transit important. One of the things I praised most about Shadow of War was the fact that getting from point A to point B was legitimately fun, because it was basically a platforming exercise at that point. You could just zoom around and hop and jump and go over here and dash and go through here and summon this thing and go over here, and it was actually fun to get from point A to point B. Spider-Man on the PS4 is another excellent example of a game that made just moving from point to point enjoyable. Right? Now, I don't think Witcher 3 makes moving from point A to point B enjoyable. I don't. I don't think they do enough to really make it a fun or interesting experience. But I am willing to give a plus basically to Roach for the nature of how Roach functions. Because of the fact that Roach is summonable. Because of the fact that Roach can go, I think it's 3 separate speeds, depending on what you want to do. You know, just the trot, and then you've got the striding, and then you got full tilt. And because of the fact that there's actually the auto guidance thing. You could just hold down shift and absolutely nothing else, and just kind of keep, you know, following the road like I was actually doing earlier. So, plus to gameplay, basically for Roach. And I need to write these. I'll put these in the actual document later, I swear. Oh yeah, that's also another thing to mention in favor of Roach. Obviously, I was just mentioning how he can stay on the roads automatically. You can also have it so that Roach is a very off-road vehicle. Let's just summarize. There's a lot of places you can go to with Roach. Oh yeah, by the way, just to continue praising Spider-Man for a second. Spider-Man had fast travel. True fast travel. You could just warp to a location from wherever you were if you wanted to. You didn't have to. And in fact, half the time you didn't want to. But the fact that it was still an option was a good game design choice, in my opinion. See, this is why I set this for this week, Dazara. You think I don't think about this sort of thing. Also, bricks! Bricks! They're so beautiful. Oh. Actually, in all sincerity, I do want to praise a lot of the brickwork in this game. This is actually not a great example of brickwork, to be completely honest. With one exception, that's a mesh. What we're looking at right there, there are actual chunks of brick that are sticking out from that to show the ruined nature of the area. One of these days we'll cross that bridge. A lot of this game has a lot of showcasing of what it looks like to be in a war-torn area. A lot of the no man's land, which is a huge bulk of the gameplay of quests and activities within this game, at least within Witcher 3 Vanilla. A lot of it looks like a war's going on. And what I like about it is, and this is going to sound strange, so I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can. It doesn't look completely death-torn devastation. Everything is gray and black, and there are ashes floating on the wind, and you can barely see the sky for the clouds that block it out. You know, it's not overdone, basically. Because that's the kind of thing that can be done well, but is done in virtually everything. How many games have we played in the last 10 years alone where there's been the total devastation, ruined look? Wolfenstein did that, for God's sakes. Doom did that a little bit. I know there's other examples. It's one of the most common types of approach. Devil May Cry 5 did that, for God's sakes. It's one of the most common approaches to visual presentation in a video game. I've talked about this many times, about how it's weird, how everything does ruins. This game does not do ruins. This game does ruined, but not ruins. And I do think that's actually a good distinction. And I think it helps to add a bit of visual flair to the game. If I could share another anecdote, and I swear this is the last thing I'll talk about before I cross this bridge. Please forgive me, guys. Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion, has not aged very well graphically. However, I would say that Final Fantasy VII has a very distinct visual look to it. In other words, its direction, its visual style, is something that is unique. By contrast, Final Fantasy XIII or 15, or several other recent games I can mention out of Square, their direction style is so similar to each other that other than the obvious ways, you can't really distinguish which is which from which. Because they're so similar to each other, right? Now, this is, of course, just my opinion. But I bring this up because it makes another game, actually FF6 is probably a better example, but whatever. It makes an older game more visually interesting to me, personally, not because it's older or because it's better, but because it is distinct. Or, to use a better example, Wind Waker. Okay, so, bridge. Wait! No, I'm kidding.
We going?
Help me! Help!
One of the only moments of gore in this whole game, by the way, right here at the intro. I remember seeing this and thinking, oh gosh, I'm not sure I want to play this. Because I'm not a fan of gore, as I've mentioned. Believe it or not, I have something to say about that cutscene. I know, shocking.
Yeah. Come out.
Gods, that was close. I was sure I'd end up like my mare.
Provided you got lucky.
Your horse died quickly, but griffins like to toy with their prey. Eat it, alive, piece by piece.
You'd like a reward, I suppose.
So, 2 yellow options. In this case, nope.
You don't owe us anything. You were in need. We helped.
And they call witches heartless. Say they won't lift a finger without pay.
They also say mice are born of rotting straw. Back to the trail.
Like I said, leads to the main road and ends there, muddled.
You seek someone?
Yeah, a woman.
Yes, a woman. Medium height, long black hair. Seen anyone like that?
No. But there's an inn here in White Orchard. Sole one around. Gets its share of travelers. Perhaps you'll learn something there. Besides, the innkeep's my cousin. Tell her Bram sent you. She'll treat you like family.
Not a bad idea. Especially since that wound needs cleaning.
Beast barely grazed me. But sure, could use a good rye. Nice and cool, you know, straight from a cellar.
Let's go.
Okay, so, first we're going to save. Then we're going to pause. And after this, I'm actually going to cut off for lunch for the day, by the way. I just want to let you guys know about that in advance. Don't worry, I'll be back in about an hour. So, how many of you guys have seen Die Hard, the original? I swear it's relevant. And no, Thronebaker is still on the premiere run list. Hasn't happened yet, Mr. Floyd. Die Hard's pretty cool, right? It's a good film. Like, I think we can agree Die Hard's a generally good film. This is about the bleeding feet. Actually, no. In... Oh, what's a good alternative example? I'm trying to think of a really good stereotypical example here. I guess the recent Bourne films kind of count, but even that's not quite there. And I can't use Fast and the Furious as an example because that's deliberately cheesy and ridiculous. Let me make my point. One of the things that more modern films tend to lean towards is how cool the main character looks while they're doing everything. Everything they do looks like they are completely in control all the time, right? There's no... It's not just they defeat the enemy. It's they defeat the enemy with style. And they appear like they're completely unflappable and completely above it all the entire time, right? Now, Die Hard is the exact opposite of that. And I point that out because Die Hard is a fantastic example of a type of storytelling that I don't see all that often. Die Hard was just a normal guy who was barely struggling to get through everything. Like, you guys mentioned you've seen that film relatively recently, like every Christmas or whatever. Anybody who's just put into your mind Die Hard, the way Bruce Willis goes through that, he's just like, okay, oh God, don't shoot. You know, he acts like a person who is barely holding on by the skin of his teeth. The directing of it, the presentation of it, makes you feel that he's more human, right? Now, I'm not saying that the I'm completely on control of everything kind of a thing doesn't have its own place. But I do like the idea of the person who's just barely holding on by the skin of their teeth and is basically just a normal... Now, why do I bring that up? Were you paying attention to the directing in the scene where they fought the griffin? There's a wonderful bit where Geralt reaches up to get one quick slice on the griffin as it's flying away. That quick slice... The way he did it was just basically a flail, like... Okay. It would have been very easy to direct that scene so that the animation was instead like the smooth... and just absolutely manage it and comes off looking awesome, right? It would have been very easy to do that. You can even see why they might go for that. He is skilled enough to probably pull that off, but instead, he came across as more human because he was just kind of... Okay. And then when it came back, we saw the exact same thing with Vesemir. And, you know, that's why he ended up getting the injury on his shoulder. No. I just wanted to point that out because that's something that's pretty consistent in this game. A lot of the characters, especially the ones who have combat going on, look a lot more down to earth, a lot more believable, mostly because they don't look stylish. There are some exceptions to that, of course. Especially when they end up fighting, I forget his name, the elf guy in Kaer Morhen, excuse me. But I do like that approach that they do for the most part in this game. The second thing I wanted to mention... Please don't hate me. The second thing I wanted to mention is, once again, we see a nice bit of, oh, you've never played The Witcher before? Don't worry, we've got you. Kind of slid right into this. Maybe, Smegman. Depends on the question and how long it takes me to answer it. And that is, and here I thought witches didn't, you know, basically, I guess you want a reward? And he says that so, again, credit to the voice directing, he says that so hesitantly, like, and you can then say yes or no. That little interaction right there quickly gets across the idea that the Witchers are mercenaries. Now, this is actually the second point they've mentioned this in this game alone. The first point was Geralt's quick mention earlier. We have a side. That bit, right? So, with that little tidbit, we can see the more mercenary nature of how Witchers can be perceived. And I mentioned that can be because, again, that's your choice. You can decide that. And if you decide to be more merciful, not only does he respond to that favorably, but he also this will also change, very minorly, but change some of the dialogue later on when you go to the town and talk to his friend or whatever she is. Up. Hang on, we got to ban a bot. Wow, that's the first time I've seen one of those in a long time. Plonk. There we go. God. That has been a long time since we've had bots in this channel. I guess it's because we're streaming Witcher 3. Hi, Dream Whisperer. I guess that's it. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Notice how our mounts are right there. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I do want to mention one other very quick thing. I just want to acknowledge what Negodai just said in chat. You know, preparation is their their best trait, and they weren't prepared for fighting a griffin, which is also a dangerous enemy. Which is not only indicative of the whole prep work thing, which is a very big part of Witcher lore and Witcher gameplay, but is also something that helps to emphasize some of the nature of the story. The setting, the setting. I mentioned earlier how a lot of The Witcher is actually pretty low tier, right? Like, for the most part, everything we're fighting here is guys with swords. Or a monster that's a zombie or whatever, right? Like, they're fairly low tier overall. But there are occasional spikes in overall power level, and the game does a good job of emphasizing how, for the most part, we got this, but every now and again there's something that is actually dangerous. And the Griffin is mentioned to be actually dangerous. And they do this several times. Several individual creatures we encountered are far more terrifying than most of the normal stuff we fight on the side. And conveniently enough, most of the legitimately dangerous stuff we're fighting is either something that's the culmination of a quest arc, or an optional boss, or something that we can actually go out of our way to not fight at all because we don't want to. This is something that will come back up in over and we get to Blood and Wine. Everything about the actual vampires are sufficiently high tier that Geralt just doesn't even want to deal with that unless he has to. We'll get there when we get there. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to the frickin' end, shall we? Actually, no, we probably shouldn't. We should probably just stop right here. So let's just stop right here. For those of you on YouTube...